Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I want to show you how to make this style of pendant. Now this one here I've made using one of our grooved cabochons, but I'm going to be doing the video showing how to use just a bare, undrilled, ungrooved stone. Now both of these labradorites were from our shop, backtoearthcreations.com, and there's going to be links to everything that we're using down in the video description below. So you'll want a cabochon. It doesn't have to be this same shape, but I do really love this wrap for teardrops and triangles and different things like that, just because it gives me something with shoulders that I can like hold on to, if that makes sense, with the little swirls and stuff. But you are very crafty and clever. I'm sure you'll find ways to adapt this to round and oval and square and, you know, all sorts of irregular shapes. You can also use whatever beads that you like, but I'm going to be using the Lolly bead kit that I like from Amazon. That I'm going to be using the 4mm, and then whatever, it's like 1.5, whatever the smallest one is. And I'm not entirely certain how many of these I'm going to be using. A lot of that is determined by how big of a bail I want to make. So we do have a related video to this where I show how to do a bangle bracelet in just this style, and so that'll be linked either in the cards or like down in the video description, so be sure to check that out if you're interested in making a matching set. The tools that we're using, round nose pliers, these are my stepped bail making or mandrel pliers. You could use stick mandrels as well, or like knitting needles or pens, just something to form the bail around. The round nose pliers are for making the little loops. Some sort of flat nose plier, because that's going to let us get a really nice tight bend. These are stepped flat nose pliers or tapered flat nose that I get from riogrande.com. My bent nose pliers that I love so much for getting into difficult to reach places, very basic but very durable. Electrical wire snips, I prefer these as opposed to the crafting like wire snips, because these are so much more durable. And then nylon jaw pliers for straightening and gently work hardening our work. Now I'm going to be using 20 gauge wire for my thick wire and 21 gauge half round. So this is 20 gauge round. This is 21 gauge half round, and 26 gauge round are the three sizes that I'm using. You could go thicker. I would recommend an 18 or 20 gauge for our thick wire. You could use a 21 or 18 gauge half round, or you could do all of it with the 26 gauge, but it's, so long as you have something, you can make it work. So a thick and a thin wire will get you where you're going on this one. So let me get my workspace cleared and we will get started. So the lengths of wire that we're using here are going to be determined a lot by the size of your stone. So typically I like to do, I'm going to do about 6 to 7 inches of our half round wire. And put that back in its baggie. It's oftentimes spooled with the flat side out, and you can tell which side is which because of the way that the light reflects off of it. This is the curved side, and that is the flat side. Do you see the difference in how this is like one flat surface, and this has that nice, you can see the light, the highlight and shadow on it. So I like to have my half round wire where the flat side is facing the wires that I'm wrapping around. So for our cabochon, I'm going to want enough wire to go the full perimeter, as well as about 4 inches minimum. I'm going to give myself 5 just to have a little bit of wiggle room to go wild. And there's no such thing as wasted wire, so I'd rather give myself an abundance of extra wire than just a smidge too much, because I save my little baggie of the end cutoffs, and I'm able to do all sorts of different things with the scrap wire from our project. So I just design with having second use wire in mind right from the get-go. I'm using my nylon jaw pliers to straighten out and work harden just a little bit our 20 gauge here. So I'm going to be cutting almost 12 inches to go around. What are the dimensions of this stone? It looks like it's about a 30 millimeter. Yeah, on just about each of the faces. It's not exactly an equilateral triangle, but it's close enough. But so it's about that big. I know that's so specific, but just trying to give you a solid starting point. And I'm going real time with you because, well, I like to have a realistic idea of how long the project's going to take me. And so this way we can literally sit down and craft this project together. I'm going to do 3 of our 12-inch segments of 20 gauge wire. You could do more, but I think 3 is perfectly adequate. If we were doing our groovy stone, we would just do 1 wire at probably 16 inches. Now we do sell grooved cabochons on our website. Sometimes we send them out in our craft-along kits, but again, well, I do think it makes wire wrapping a lot easier. I wanted to give you guys an option so that you could use whatever you have on hand. But if you do find yourself on our website, be sure to use coupon code HAPPYCRAFTER to get 10% off of your order if you find yourself in a mood to shop. Or you could consider joining our Happy Crafter Club here on YouTube or as a kit member, and that gets you a 20% off coupon. And so with the flat side of our wire pressed against our core wires, I want to make sure we're getting a nice snug connection. So I'm going to do 2 wraps and then kind of just give it a little smush. And then we're going to go just wrapping a little more. Now, if you're like me and you've got like a little bit of a death grip on your wire wrapping, we could use this ring clamp. I really like the ones that have the leather in the jaws so that it holds everything just nice and stable, and you just put that wedge in the back. And now I can relax my hand while still maintaining a perfectly firm grip on our piece, and then come in and smooshing that with our pliers. Just trying to keep everything kind of tight shoulder to shoulder here in our core wires without anything twisting or bunching, and trying to keep our coiling nice and, well, hey big doggy, nice and shoulder to shoulder without overlapping. And sometimes I'll grip with my pliers just enough that they'll slide along the length, and that way I can just come in and go like boop and kind of smush everything down that away. And I'm going to wrap about 1/2 inch, almost 15 millimeters. We're going to be wrapping this part around the tip of our stone. That's going to be kind of like what's cupping it. So, you know, I'm going to go ahead and just use all of this wire on there because why not? Well, actually, the why not on this one is I don't want my stone falling out, and I need to leave enough space that I can do the little, like, little bendy inny part, the bent parts that hold the cabochon in. Words are hard, you guys, but we'll get there. So I don't want to do too much. So before we snip this, we can kind of shift it and make sure that it is centered up in our wire. And now I'm going to grab roundabout in the center of what we've wrapped, and I'm going to bend that away. And we want to get this to match the bend of our stone just as well as we can, because why not? It keeps it nice and crispy and everything. I absolutely love the flash in this labradorite, you guys. I've never met a stone I didn't love, so there we are. I'd rather overbend and then have to open it back up some than to have it look flubby, and I want to keep these lines nice and crisp and straight. So yeah, I think that looks perfect. I'm going to trim our ends where they are going to be pinned between the frame that we're making and the stone. That way it's less likely to snag on skin or clothing. So we're just going to snip that off, and let's go ahead and risk zooming in quite a bit. Pardon my manicure, these are working hands. And I'm going to smush that little loose end, and I'm going to smush that little loose end. And so now this should fit right onto our stone. There we go. Very cool. All right. Zooming back out, and cool tip, if you are watching on a phone or something, you can actually touch the screen and like zoom in. So I'm trying to stay zoomed out more so that I don't risk wandering out of frame as much, but you know, it is what it is. All right, so let's see. So from here I'm going to take, I like my stepped flat nose pliers for this. These are the 2mm tips. And I'm just going to come in, and you can see I'm holding with my fingers here. I'm going to bend in like that. And then I'm going to grab here. Oops. And I'm going to bend in like that. And you can see that gives us a very nice little outcrop to rest our cabochon against, but I'm going to need to do that on the front side as well. So I'm thinking about it, and there's no reason to not get a little fancy on this if and you want. Like, no, there's never any pressure, but something that we could do, because I don't want to cover up too much of the face of the stone, so let's do it here on the back and see if we like how that looks. But we can actually bend this in quite far until those two bits of wire are touching. And I'm finding myself wondering, yeah, that'll be good. So I'm going to take this little bit of scrap wire and I'm going to bend that around just enough that we can get it hooked like so. And then I'm going to grab and bring this around. There we go. I'm going to squeeze that. We could bring these in closer to each other just to make life a little easier right now. I'm going to use my bent nose pliers just because I prefer them for tight work like this, because I can fit them in and kind of, good thing this is on the back, it doesn't have to be super perfect. And don't fixate on trying to make things perfect, just get it perfectly adequate. And then trust in the power of smushing, because once we get our pliers on there and squeeze that flat, it's going to look pretty neat. I wonder if I can do a third wrap, because I worry that I don't have enough wire to do that. Yeah, I'm just going to go with the two teeny wraps like that. You could use your thin wire as well, the 26 gauge that we have on standby. But I had that teeny bit of half round and just, I don't know, I've been wanting to try this. So now I'm going to take that center wire back to the side like so, and I'm going to take it back to the side like so. Kind of just press in to get that, oh, what a nice curve that makes. So yeah, I think that's nice. And now on the front side though, we can decide if we want to do that, or if we want to bring in some of the twist motif that's going to be repeating through the veil. I love repeating motifs, you guys. So let's see if we can bring this side up and over this way. And you could also totally do what I kind of refer in my mind as an Oksana style wrap, where, you know, you have like the very tidy frame and stuff. You could do that, and then we'll finish up the veil as we get there. I've changed my mind on doing the twist. As much as I love repeating motifs, it's going to add bulk to the thickness of the piece, and I'm not ready for that down low on the... I don't mind adding a little bit of bulk up top, but I want to keep it narrow and light towards the tip if I can. Now we could totally just bring that up this way though, but I think that covers up too much of the stone. And this is just my favorite way of wrapping this piece. I think it's very important for each of us to just listen to while we're crafting whatever it is that we feel like doing at the time, because that's how we're going to find our style. That's how we're going to have the most fun. And those are really having fun. Like, that's kind of the point of all this. Like, I've been a professional artisan, I suppose, since 2008. And I've said this in other videos, but I think it's worth repeating. The difference between a job and a joy is the why. And at the end of the day, whenever the piece is sold and the money is spent, you know, on probably more beads or something, the why is all I have left. And if the why is because it's fun, well, hey, that's the way to do it, I think. So whether you're doing something just for fun or something to keep the lights on, don't forget to let yourself have fun wherever you can. Okay, I really like how that's framing up on the side. So now I think I'm going to snip 2 more 6 or 7 inch sections of this half round wire, and I want to do a wrap segment here and a wrap segment here. So we're going to go ahead and pull that out. And one of the handiest tips I wish I'd given myself when I was first getting into wire wrapping is to go ahead and just measure your hand, because you're typically going to have them on you when you're crafting. And so my hand is a little under 6.5 inches from the bottom of my hand to the tip of my longest finger. And then I'm also about 2.5 inches from just my fingers stacked side by side. And so, you know, just different parts of your hand might measure different things, and that way you can kind of guesstimate. You know, I know that that's going to be about an inch. Is that 1.25 inches? Or not quite. I mean, it's 1.25 inches-ish, which is close enough. But it helps me to get, you know, things to be symmetrical if I'm not worrying about ruler precise measurements, but just measuring it against my hand. So, and that's just because if I have to pick up and set down my tools one more time, I'm probably going to go insane, irrevocably so. But that's just the kind of day it is sometimes. And what drives me nuts about it is the more tools I have on my desk, the more things I have for when we get our weaving wire out for that to snag onto. So that's where the insanity factor starts seeping in. So we're going to find there's the flat side, there's the round side. I'm going to try to make sure that our wires are all sitting happy next to each other before we start trying to bind them. Yeah, it's easier to bind them together if you can get them to get along first. 2, 3. You don't really need to count coils unless you're real specific about wanting your symmetry to be like immaculate, which I admire. I don't seek that in my own work, but if that's where you feel your passion drawing you towards, then man, make it as symmetrical as you can. Lean into that. All right. Even after smushing, I'll use my fingernail to kind of lift the tag end away, and then we'll snip that and we'll get it smushed down. But I'm not trying to fuse it by smushing, because I still want to be able to scooch that wire down. And you can see we're going to need to go ahead and scooch down. That looks pretty good. And now just wrapping. I like to be firm around the bends. And what I mean by that is I want to do that bend and then wrap and then bend and then wrap. I'm not just lashing it loosely. And I find that that helps me to maintain my tension and to give me where all my wraps with the half round are nice and consistent as much as possible. Now I don't guess we would have to do the shoulder wraps here, but I really like the way it looks. Now see, here's an example of whenever I start to get lazy, my core wires will start to get bunched up around each other. And then I'm going to open that up. Let's go ahead and give that a smush though, before bringing it up. And boop. Squish. There we go. And now I'm going to do that same thing on the other side. If you didn't want to use more half round wire, you could try braiding these wires together. I think that would be a really cool variation. But since we're using a thinner wire, this is a 20 gauge, this is thin for me for using as a frame. I want to give the shoulders a little bit more structure because I really want this piece to be durable, and I think it's going to be beautiful. The magic happens in the details. So sometimes you got to let that magic happen. So just wrapping around town. Coming in and doing a squishy smush. There we are. Boop. Yeah, that slides wonderfully still. And now we're going to shape this around. Hazy dog. I love it. He'll come in here just to sit down and kick himself, like kind of scratch his ears, and sometimes he'll just look at me and fart, and he's a good old dog. Sometimes you just gotta take a break and pet the dog. Okay, so making sure, ooh, that was just enough that our loose end is able to finish on the inside of the frame. Lifting up those little tail ends, giving it a snip, giving it a snip. Now, I think this bail style that we're fixing to get into is fantastic for incorporating faceted crystals or gemstone beads, like anything that you want to accent or enhance your focal, cabochon. Just what fun to be had. And so now I'm going to come in. If I were using a round or oval stone, I would use like a ring mandrel or a bottleneck or something. But right now, since we've got a nice sharp corner to bend around, I'm going to take my flat nose pliers and I'm going to do a bend. Ooh, and sometimes you got to get, there we go. I wanted that to be a nice sharp bend, as sharp as I could get it. And sometimes that's achieved better by holding the wire where it's going to be stationary. I'm going to remove the stone so I don't drop it. And then bonk, bending around nice and sharp. Like that. There we go. That's a much sharper bend. Ooh, but it also shifted our half round wire. That's okay. So much of wire wrapping is just creative problem solving. And we're like, ooh, I didn't expect that. This isn't what I planned, but this is what's happening. And it looks like we'll just have that gap there. So now we can slide our stone right back in. And I want to now bend upward. Because this is going to be how we begin our bail. Now, unlike the Groovy Wrap, which we had actually wrapped this one in one of our live streams, I'll try to have that linked up in the corner of the screen too. And if it doesn't show up, it should be down in the linked videos. But that was such a fun live stream to get to craft and hang out with y'all. And we didn't have as many wires going around. Like you can see this was our frame wire, came up, just traveling underneath right there. But we did this like little bit of a squared off section to give us some space to be able to pass through, which it looks like we will have space on this one, so we're all right. But then I did that twist tie twist and we started the bail and it came around. We hooked through our pass-through space and then it came down here into the front where we did the twist and it followed around and it came up and we joined it together and it came around here into that final. So all of that was done with just one wire. So now though we have 6 wire ends to terminate. So we don't have to do all of it in the exact same way. So I'm actually going to take these back wires and bend them off this way. There's one. And now I don't like to do this step as much in the exact same way if I'm using a translucent stone because, well, you'd be able to see it, but I think it's perfectly fine here. And I don't really like that, so I'm going to bend it out to the side here. And we're going to use our nylon jaw pliers to remove that gnarled up kinky bit. Boop. And now a much nicer shape. And we could totally choose if we wanted, if I had a little bit more of that scrap half round, we could join these together. More magic happening in the details. And while not necessary, I think that would just be fun. So let's do that. I'm just gonna do about 3 inches because I'm going to be using the excess from that bit to do more bind off spots. So I kind of found myself, let me know if you've ever experienced anything like this, because I'm experiencing seasons and chapters as a crafter from after doing it for so long, but I'll catch myself like not letting myself put in the kind of work that I normally would because I'm trying to keep my pieces affordable. And while I think that's a good thing to do sometimes, I don't want that to be how I do all the time. And so I'm trying to practice my way intentionally out of, being not stingy with my work, but just being very reserved with my work. It's like, let's go hog wild and just see what happens. Like, I think that's really, really important. And then we can figure out how to scale it back. But let your art happen, you guys. And that's mostly just me to future me, or me to present me, really. Okay. Wow, look at that. And that didn't even hardly take any additional time at all. And so now from here, we'd bring this around, and that one will get looped on that way, and then this one will come on around, and this one will get looped on that way. And by looped on, I mean doing that little binding wrap. Okay, so there's that. And I think I want to go ahead, give it a little bit of a curve, and I just do that by just running my finger on it, getting it to curve so it will slide through. And then again with those bent nose pliers, I'm just coming around. I'm going to try on this end. That's not working as well as I wanted. I feel as though my preferred method is still, and if you've goobered your wire up a little bit, that's okay. That's why these nylon jaw pliers are like magic. Wah! Ka-cha! Yoo! I mean, it's not perfect, but it's better than what it was. And so I'm going to come in and do that intentional sharp bend first. And this way we can just whoop, like that. Offset it a little bit. I'm going to shape that around and we'll slide the wire through, there we go, where there's enough for us to hold on to and work. Oh, goodness. There we go. Sometimes something that works in theory doesn't hold up to reality. That's okay. All we can do is try our best and keep on crafting. So I'm going to do a little bit more of a bend there at the tip, and then we'll kind of like tuck it and smush it. All right, one last one just because I really want 3 wraps. That makes me happy. It's a nice round number. Well, and it makes me feel like it's going to be nice and strong and stable. I think it's good to follow my intuition and then to be like, why do I want to do it that way? Because that way I get to honor my intuition, you know, creatively, but also I get to understand the creative process and be like, you know, why is it a good idea to do it this way? Because oftentimes we might, how to put this? We might creatively have a good idea but not know why it's a good idea. And I think knowing why it's a good idea can help us to have more good ideas. All right, so from that point where we bound off, I'm going to measure 2 finger widths wide, so like 1.25 inches. You can always trim more off, but I'm going to use my round nose pliers to just make a little spiral. Just bringing that on in, kind of poking it down with my fingernails to keep everything flush. Yee! I just love it. I love it so much. And look at, I mean, All right, so now I worry. See, and this right here, that's a perfect length. It's 20 gauge wire. I can totally make, woo, I can throw it. I can make like a bead link out of this, you guys, for like an earring or like an earring dangle, or to put beads on to match this to make the neckline, you know, for what we're doing. So that's not trash. Don't throw that away. Hashtag hoarding. I mean, throw it away if you want, but I do save all of my wire, and if it gets to be a bit much, I just take it to a scrap metal place. It's enameled copper, so I don't get as good of a price for it as if I were to ship it off to somewhere maybe, but waste not, want not. Okay, so I'm threaded this through now. Let's see if we can be more concise with this one on this side, because this part here is tricky for me, getting that tiny little bit shaped around, and that's the part that I'm trying to figure out. Is there a better way than what I've been doing? And you don't know till you try, and it's all going to be messy and a little challenging and difficult at first, but you got to learn to crawl before you walk, and you got to stumble before you're good at it. So let yourself stumble if you need to. Okay, so that's not like super tight or anything, but it's there, and now we can continue shaping around, maybe. There we go. Get the wire fed through. And now let's do that third wrap. Oh yeah. Did you see how it went through just like that? And then we go like, and then we can grab the tip and then we can pull it nice and tight. Ooh. Heck yeah. All right, so now we'll use our wire snips to get nice and tight in there. Boop. That's another thing I've been doing with my scrap wire, you guys. Let me see if I can find it. I might have set it off somewhere to the side, but I've been putting, I'll just start a fresh bottle. All my teeny tiny bits of wire like this, I just put in one of these little like fairy bottles that I like making miniatures, and I like putting these little bottles of, it makes them look like screws and odds and ends and stuff, but I'll just start filling up little bottles with my trash. So I'm going to try to make sure that there's no pokey bit. If there is any little bit of wire end protruding, I want to make sure that it's not an obstruction to, like it's not uncomfortable. Whoop. Way to go. I don't want to lose my tiny trash. Yeah, I'll put it in the bottle. Boop. Hee hee hee. Hoarding. So now we have that, you guys. That's awesome. If I'm not able to get my pliers in there, I'll just use the flat side to kind of smush and get things down flat again. I'm going to do this one about this long. I'm just going to eyeball it this time, but there we go. Now we have enough to make a matching dangle earrings to go with this. If I had some more beads or something, which I could use the lolly beads. There we go. Now here, that loop didn't get closed. That could be a stylistic element for you. I personally prefer to have my loops be closed because there's a style of shirt that I like to wear that's like crocheted right on the décolletage area, and I don't want my pendants getting snagged in that. So there we are. There's the back. I kind of like that it looks like a heart or like an owl face, or I don't know. It's art. I love it. Oh, I gotta go pay attention to Doggy for a minute. Alrighty, you guys, we had a little bit of a break, but now we are back. And I am going to take these front two wires and bend them forward just slightly. But these inside wires, the one that would have been the middle of the three, I am going to just bend back as sharply as I can. And I like to use the thinnest tip of my, some flat nose pliers have a nice thick tip, and those are nice for some things. I'm using my thinnest tipped flat nose pliers for this, and you can take a pair of pliers like this and make them like this on a grinder, just grinding from the outside. Or, you know, just shopping and trying to find one. And, you know, if you're able to shop in person, that's fantastic. But I like to get just as nice and sharp of a bend there as what we can. And then I'm gonna go like this, where it's sandwiched. And I'm gonna bring that down nice and tight. And I'm gonna do that on the other side as well. I just want to make it a nice tight little loop so that we can then snip just the one wire. There's that one. And this is my favorite way of like cheating, because now I don't have to worry about finding a place for those wires to go. And I can even trim it down just a little more. That'll be perfect for in the jar. And that's going to be hidden and contained in with our bail. But now we don't have to worry about binding off those wires. So That's just, I don't know, I like it. And it's okay, you can do stuff like that. It's not compromising the integrity of the piece. If so long as it's not going to be visible or poking anything, I think it's perfectly fine. And you can see on the width of this bail, those wires are going to be hidden. It's bead time. Well, now I'm kind of feeling like there's not a whole lot of other titanium tone in this piece, but I'm going to use the titanium tone because it's going to be very visible against it. So if I were designing this piece, I might not necessarily incorporate a different metal tone at this time, but it's okay. So we're going to begin with doing our twist tie twist and then doing a 4mm bead. So I'm going to pull off a full arm span. So for me, that's about 5 feet of wire. There we go. And I'm going to prep a 4mm bead. And bring it down all the way to the center point. So now this is ready. I'm just going to set it off like that. Now we're building towards the back of the bail first, so if it's not perfect right from the get-go, that's okay. It's going to be the back side. And I like to have the right wire on top just because I twist away from myself. You could do it either way. But there's 1 and 2 twists, like a twist tie. To get a nice consistent twist, I like to try to maintain my angle as well as where my fingers are placed on the wire. I try to have them placed the same distance from that center point, as opposed to one in tighter and one out farther. And closer in gets me more control than farther out. Just my thoughts. And so we're gonna just lay our bead in here. I'm gonna come in from like on top. And see, this is the part where I'm snagging everything that's on my desk, but it's fine. We're gonna go, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 wraps with our 26 gauge wire. If you're, well, there went our bead. If you're using a different gauge than I am, you might do a different number of wraps. Also, if you're using a different size bead than I am, you might do a different number of wraps. But for this wire and these beads, I've found that 10 wraps gets me right where I want to go. And now I'm adding the bead from the same side on this side. If I were adding it, do you see how that's different? This is on the front and that's on the back. I want both sides to be on the front to start with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And now I want to keep the right side on top. So as we bring this around, that just lets me know which wire I want to make sure is traveling on top. And then keeping our weaving wires, the thin wire, going off in different directions. And then we are going to do a twist. So there's our single twist. And now you could use, oh gosh, a little like size 10 or size 11, like what is it? Those seed beads. Is it an 11-aught? The little ones. You could use those little seed beads. I like these little round beads too. You could use teeny tiny faceted crystals to add a little bit of sparkle. So I've threaded on, one onto each side. And the reason why I had the bead going like how we did to start with is now these are being added from the same way, and it just helps to give a sense of symmetry. But I'm going to come under right here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to make it match on the other side. And I come under because it helps maintain tension. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to zoom in for y'all to show you what it is that we have so far. So that was our 4mm bead. We did our 10 coils. We've added our small bead, figure 8ing to the back to help maintain tension. And now right here, I want to add another 4mm bead. Just letting it slide down. And then just threading this next wire through and pulling gently. I'm going to zoom back out because there's a lot going on here. So you can see our wire's going to want to kink. Like, it's just going to want to. That's okay. We can get ahead of it. If it kinks, it's not the end of the world. Just keep going. But yeah, so now we have threaded both of those wires inside that bead. And we're going to continue around as though nothing happened. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then bring in this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this whole time I'm trying to if you deviate from this, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Just get through the project and have as much fun as you can. You can refine and fine tune on future pieces. But I am striving for having my wire exiting the same way, like symmetrically, if that makes sense. Okay, so now we're going to bend the left side in first, and then the right side over that way. And we're going to do our twist, just like that. And then we can add our little bead. I'm going to do just a few out into the box. There we go. That's way more than what I need, but I like having them prepped. So yeah, just threading that teeny tiny bead on. And I'm coming from above, so I want to come down below. As opposed to just like that. I like the way that it sets it in line with the rest of the piece like this. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm gonna leave that side and go and get the other one up to speed. And again, wrapping behind so it lays nice and flat. Do you see how it's flat like that? If I were to do it just to the front, it makes no difference, but I like it better this way. I genuinely thought it was going to make a difference. But I do like it, and it does feel like I can maintain tension better. 4 and 5. And then we're going to thread on our 4mm bead. And let's see, how many of these did I do on this one? I just did the 1, 2, and 3. So that's all it takes, you guys. Like, and this is so much detail. Like, this makes, I think, the piece rich in details just by adding in this element to the bail. And so I'm going to kind of start to get the shape. There we go, just bringing them into parallel. Now I'm paying attention here to the way that the wire is coming through the bead, because I want this wire that's coming from the other side like that's exiting the bead, to follow suit so that from the surface it looks like there's no gap. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, exiting to the outside. And then like on this side, if I were to, it just feels like it leaves a little bit of a gap. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to zoom back out because there's always somebody telling me in the comments, oh, you always go out of screen right on the most critical part. And I'm like, I do it just to spite you. Trust me. No, no, I am trying to stay in frame, you guys. There we go. So that's looking pretty cool. And it looks like I had finished it off into like tapering it down into a little bead. Yeah, let's do it exactly the same as we did before. So we're gonna take one of our little beads. Because I bet this would look super cool as just like a link component if we used 2, 3, 4, 5. Like if this were a 4, this were a 6, that were an 8, that were a 10, and then 8, 6, 4. Like that'd look really cool. I love. In fact, I'll do that sometime and like post a picture of it on the internet. I'm so excited. At the time of recording, we have an upcoming vending event, which for the past like couple of years, the only vending events we had done were our top performers from pre-pandemic. So like Anime St. Louis and Dragon Con. 3, 4, 5. And so this is our first new event in like ages. So it's a moth market, and it's like an oddities market in Springfield, Missouri, and I'm really excited. So it's, I don't know, it kind of lit a fire in my heart to want to make more cool and interesting and different and fun stuff. So that's exciting. I'm starting to worry that I didn't give myself enough wire. Uh-oh. But we'll figure it out. It'll be fine. So now let's use, I'm not going to go to the teeniest one. I'm going to go one down. So this is like their 3mm bead. So just stringing that on in the same way. And then we're going to bring this through here. Flump. And then I'm going to start shaping so that we can get that tension right, as you know, right around the bead. Oh heck, I forgot to do the twist, you guys. I did this in the bracelet a bunch too. We can either leave it like that, which I think looks pretty cool, or I'm going to show you how to undo it in case you're like me and you want it to be a particular way, but you want it to look nice and not like you chewed through your wire like a feral animal. So we're just going to undo our little bit. I'm going to set that bead right there, and then I'm going to uncoil 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got that going on. Let's get these straightened out. And we're gonna do our twist. There we go. And now we can come right back in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Easy as that. It's just a little, you just gotta, you know, undo it and redo it. It's not the end of the world. It's a perfectly normal thing. 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got to be patient with ourselves, and we've got to be patient with the project sometimes. But it's always worth it. And patience is the sort of thing that you just have to practice. And it's okay to set the piece down, you know, if you're frustrated or agitated or feeling discouraged. You know, set it down, take a break, get a cup of something good to drink, and, you know, stretch a bit and come back to it with fresh eyes. And that usually helps me if I come back with fresh eyes and a fresh attitude. And though sometimes I just hate the piece and want to burn it, bury it in the backyard, and salt the bones. Okay, so we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And what I'm counting is how many little wraps are on the piece. I don't know if that's evident or not. So now we get to do a twist. Flump. And we get to bridge that gap with the last 2 little beads that we'll be adding. Just letting it slide down the wire. There it is. Then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I find that whenever I do 5 wraps like that, it maintains the tension. So we'll be able to start bending and shaping this, sculpting it around without undoing our work, if that makes sense. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Some mush. Yes, there we go. Okay, you ready? I did not give myself enough wire. We should have done way more wire. Note to past Vaughn, put it in the screen, like down in the bottom, to use more wire than recommended. So now we can take, I'm actually going to use my stick mandrel on this one because I love that. Just the 6mm side, and I'm going to bring this around. And I just love the way that that looks, you guys. And it's a perfectly large enough bail for any, like you could string this up on just about anything that you wanted to. So from here, on this one, I had fed it through that little loop and had it come around and added another bead to the front. I don't know that I'm going to have enough to do that on this piece. So what I'm going to do instead is we're going to consider some of our options. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up. I'm actually going to snip our coiling wire and smush it down, because this is likely to be the last time this bit of wire is easily accessible. I'm going to bring them a little more parallel to each other. I'm going to bend these ends so that we can guide them through to the back side. And I'm going to push them through like that. And see, this is where I'm like, it's perfectly fine that we snipped those wires where we did, because now as we wrap this up and over, they're just getting encased like beautifully. I love it. I keep saying perfectly, but it's like perfectly adequate. Like, this is great. This will be fine. Not perfect as in, whoa, perfection. But really, sometimes getting out of my own way and just letting a piece be what it's going to be, that's all the perfect I'm looking for. And I'm going to do a second wrap. just like so. And that's going to fully encase the little shoulder there. Now you may, if you're like me, a worrywart, you may find yourself worrying that your stone's going to just climb on out of this and it's not stable enough, and if you push from the back side, and you'd be right, because there's nothing holding that down. So I'm going to leave these little wee arms like that, and we can take one of our scrap pieces of wire, and we can do, I think on this one I had used a 6mm. You could also use a gemstone or a sparkly crystal bead, that'd be super pretty, but I'm just going to put that one in. You know how I was talking about, I love those gradients. Well, what if we're able to do 3 beads? Those look a little large though. So I'm going to throw them all over the desk. Whee! So let's try a 4, a 6, and a 4. There's our 4, there's our 6, and there's our 4. I like that. Trial and error, y'all. And now from here, we can take some of that scrap, or the silver that we had cut off, the silver toned wire. And I'm actually going to thread through all 3 of these. That's a big reason why I really like these lolly beads, is they have such large bead holes, and that way you can use like 16 gauge wire on them. You know, you can fit multiple lengths of wire through them. They're a fantastic design element, I think. Okay, and then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that didn't really make any difference at all, did it? Whale. I'm still going to do it on this side too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just, if nothing else, it's going to keep me from pulling this wire out and getting it off center. So now we can come on here. I'm going to bring these little wee arms down. And then I'm going to set these beads here. And I'm going to have the wire go up and over like this. On one side. And then we can splay it open just a little to get it to wrap on the outside of this 4mm bead as well. There are no rules for wire wrapping, you guys. Like, you can do whatever you want. My only rules that I try to make myself follow are, I want it to be comfortable to wear, so I don't want it to like be snagging me or my clothing, or, you know, pinching or making me bleed or causing allergy reactions. Like, that's one of my rules for myself. And then I want it to hold together. I don't want it falling apart when being worn. So high quality clasps, good closures, that sort of thing. And if it more or less looks kind of how I wanted it to, then I did it right. So other than those rules, there's no reason why you can't do something. Go ahead and give it a try. If you have an idea to be like, well, I kind of just wrap this onto that, do it. Do it. Whoop. Because, I mean, we're not using gold wire here. Like, we can totally afford to experiment a little bit with, you know, in our hobby. Because I say afford to experiment a little bit, and that's been another thing I've experienced some stress about, is trying to make myself make pieces that are, you know, efficient and, you know, cost effective. And I found myself being not just frugal, but stingy with my designs. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And sometimes you just got to burn through some wire to learn a new design or to experiment and let something evolve. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's something I've been having trouble with, but maybe if I can help me, maybe I can help you too. So I did 2 wraps. Let me zoom in. We did those 2 wraps with the copper on each side, so now this little crossbar's on there. And then I did 10 coils with our silver. I'm going to do a few more. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Just why not? Now here I am counting because I am going to try to have it be symmetrical. But then I just cinch it down with my bent nose pliers if it's a little lumpy and weird. So they're at 10, there's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And so now we can shape this around, coming down this way. Oh, we got a pokey bit. Let's squish it. Smush. There we go. No more pokey. But I'm bringing this down and around because I want to hook through right here. And I'm figure 8ing this because I want it to be kind of hidden if we can manage that. So, and then coming back up and around, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. But yeah, and then I just get my fingernail in there and kind of redistribute that wire. Let's do 15. So 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then giving it a snip. And now on this side, I'm going to have it come around. And I realize this isn't exactly the same as this piece, but that's just sometimes that's how it be. That, you know, we're going to be able to get a perfect, you know, replication sometimes with designs, and sometimes I just want to teach the technique and the problem solving, and then it'll come out however it is that it's going to come out. Okay, so now from here, I'm going to come around, because if I were to do a loop, just looped around, it wouldn't dip in right there, and I just wanted it to dip in, because that does give me a little bit more of an opportunity to hide it. But if you don't want to hide it, then we'd just come through right there. And you know, I might actually like that way better. So I'm going to do it one way on one side and one way on the other. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to bring this all the way down to 15, 14, and 15. Now this 20 gauge wire, you can see it gets nice and distorted pretty easily. That's okay. If you find yourself having a lot of trouble with that, on your next piece, maybe move up to 18 gauge. And so from here, I'm going to come out about 10 millimeters or a centimeter from where I snipped the wire on both sides, and I'm actually going to grab this. I really like the 20 gauge wire for this. I'm going to grab my very petite round nose pliers. So you can see those are my regular round nose, these are my petite nose, and they let me get a much teeny tinier spiral but they don't really work well on anything thicker than 20 gauge. But that's all right. So there's one shoulder of the piece wrapped. But look at that teeny tiny curly Q, as opposed to that's the smallest I was able to make with my other pliers. Ooh. There we go. Trying to make sure we don't have any little pokey bits. And now our stone is well secured. And I feel like I could try to follow this tutorial 10 more times and I'd come up with 10 different ways of doing that style of shoulder wrap. And if y'all are interested in seeing stuff like that, do feel free to check out our new YouTube channel, Craft Along with Vaughn. It is a live streaming channel, whereas, you know, here on, at the time of recording, we do here on this, the Back to Earth Creations channel, we do our Monday shop update and giveaway video. We have at least one tutorial a week, usually on Thursdays. I'm working towards bringing them out on Tuesday as well. And then we have a Friday like Q&A live stream. The rest of the week, whenever I live stream, it goes to our Craft Along with Vaughn channel that doesn't really have a set streaming schedule. So, but that's the kind of place where if I'm just sitting down to craft for the day and make some pieces for the booth or for our website, that's where I'll be crafting. So you can pop by, subscribe, be sure to ring the bell, and that goes for this channel as well. But it's exciting to be doing something new, and I'm very excited to share it with you. So any questions, comments, or ideas, do leave them down below. I look forward to hearing from you, and I will see y'all in our next tutorial. So I do hope that this was helpful to you, and until next time, you guys, happy crafting. Mwah. Bye.